Josh to come up and introduce Luis's speech.
Today we're going to hear from Luis. He's doing a storytelling manual, and today's project is called Keeping It Personal. So he's going to be telling a story that's related. He's going to inject himself into a story, tell it from his point of view, and learn all the good elements of the story. You know, he's got to have characters, he's got to have a plot, he's got to have building momentum and an action in the story. So keep an eye on that for when you're giving him feedback. He's going to be telling a story today that is about his encounter with La Llorona, a Mexican legend. The title of his speech, the timing is going to be 6 to 8 minutes, which I'll do. And the title of the speech is The Mexican Legend of the Crying Woman. Please welcome Luis.
Today I'm going to tell you about my first encounter with, or what I thought was my first encounter with La Llorona, or the Crying Woman. It's a Mexican legend about a woman that has terrified Mexicans and Hispanics all across the United States for over 500 years. My story dates back about 1505 when La Malinche was born in an Aztec area named Coatzacoalcos, around Mexico City. She was born to a noble family. In about 1521, La Malinche gave birth to 2 boys by Hernán Cortés, the Spanish conquistador sent by the Queen and the King of Spain to come and explore Mexico. But the Queen and the King, they thought that Hernán Cortés had betrayed them, and so they asked him to come back, and the way they did it, they thought that they had betrayed him and he was building his own empire in Mexico. So they sent a beautiful Spanish lady to convince him to come back to Spain. So this beautiful Spanish lady, she seduced Cortés and convinced him to move back to Spain. But she also told him that he needed to come back with his 2 boys. So when Hernán Cortés went and told La Malinche that he was going to go back to Spain, taking the boys, but leaving her behind, La Malinche realized that she had betrayed her own people, and she realized of the role that she played on the massacre of her own people. So she went and prayed to her gods, asking for help. And one of the dogs appeared and told her, I said, if you let him take your boys away, one of them is going to come and kill all of your people. So the night before Cortés' departure, La Malinche took the 2 babies and she ran away. She escaped. So when the soldiers figured out that she was missing, they went after her. And they found her by the lake that Mexico sits on. And when they surrounded her and they were about to capture her, she took a dagger and stabbed her kids on the heart, dropping their lifeless bodies in the water. La Malinche then let out a crying, wrenching scream, like, "Ay, mis hijos!" like, "Oh, my boys," or "my sons." And up until the day of her death, you will see her wandering and crying around the city, crying for her babies. "Ay, mis hijos, ay, mis hijos," and she will scare everyone that will see her or hear her walk around. After her death, she's most often seen on a night on a full moon, wandering the streets wearing a white dress, a light veil covering her face, and her agonizing cries terrorizes again still those people who hear or see her. Then she wanders around town and disappears on a surveying mode into the lake. So now I'm going to tell you about my experience with La Llorona. And I was about 19 years old, and I have just moved into my own first apartment. I was in college, and I remember that I was fall asleep, and all of a sudden I could hear this cry for help. And "Please help me, help me." So I thought I was dreaming. but the cry continued and it didn't stop. So I finally woke up and I looked throughout the window and I couldn't see a thing. It was a full moon, foggy night, just like the ones that you see in the movies, the scary movies. So at this point I was really scared. I didn't know what was going on, so I went to the room, looked through the window, and still I couldn't get a clear picture of what was happening. The funny thing is that it wasn't really the cry of a woman. It was a cry of a young boy, and he just kept asking for help. Please help me, help me. So I just couldn't figure out, and I was very nervous about it, but I wasn't going to go out and find out what was going on. I was afraid that I was going to meet La Llorona. As I say, the scream was never about I and mis hijos, but it was more about help, help me out. So I tried to go back to sleep, and I couldn't do it because the screams continue, and suddenly or eventually they faded out to the night. So the next morning, I tried to go across the street and tried to figure out, I went across the street and tried to figure out what was the cause of the screamings. I couldn't find anything. So I don't know if that was my first encounter, or close encounter with La Llorona or with one of her babies. Who knows? I will never know, but I wasn't about to find out that night. Thank you.